This is for the Gen Z and Millennials. How hard is it for you to buy a home? The only way I can afford to have a home at this point is if I buy raw land. Harvest and process the trees to build it myself. I can afford the month-to-month mortgage. I cannot, however, afford a down payment. And #X200B. Edit. Thanks for the advice in the replies, guys. But I'm not American. Millennial here. All I had to do was marry a girl, buy her a car, help her get her license back, and turn her loose on the streets to get T-boned by a DoorDash driver. DoorDash insurance payout $1 million. Profit. Disclaimer: I don't live in the house as of last week, but that's another story. I prefer a realistic dream, like going to Narnia through my closet. Old millennial here. The only reason I own a house is because my mom and I went in together on a duplex. We decided that this financially made the most sense. She's getting older, so this way I can keep an eye on her too. I'm early career. Just started really. I make $60K in Canada. I will never be able to afford a house in my lifetime on just this wage. Or any wage I'm likely to see in this field. My only chance is any inheritance I get. Or hopping careers like I'm working on right now. It was super hard saving up. We aimed to buy a cheap place first just to get onto the ladder. At least that way we were building equity as opposed to paying rent. I'm an old millennial in a nowhere state. Buying our home was insanely easy. They were giving them away. 2 months later, the national housing market began to crash. This was 2007. We're still here with 13 years to go. I think if we were 25 today, starting over, it would be extremely tough. We bought one in 2014 with an FHA loan. Only out-of-pocket costs were $500 for due diligence and around $2K for the lawyer. We've refied a few times and our mortgage will be just under $1,300 later this year when our taxes go up. Still cheaper than a one-bedroom in a place we won't get murdered. I can't even rent a home. Elder millennial here. I bought in 2018. Had no cash in hand. Utilized a program from my lender for low, moderate income buyers. Not me. Or those buying in low, moderate income zones. Me. That required only 5% down. Took a $401K loan for the down payment, closing costs. $160,000 Philly townhome. Mortgage payment even with PMI is less than the rent on my previous 2-bed apt in the same neighborhood. Process was easy. But then again, I'm familiar with it working in banking for 15+ years. I'd wager the biggest struggle for most millennials and Gen Z is the cash for down payment and closing. To that end, ask about low down payment programs from your lender and/or hope to God you have some of those moneybags boomer relatives that can gift you cash. 4-bedroom Rambler in a suburb in Minnesota, $350,000. An apartment alone these days is costing you no less than $1,800 a month. It's extremely difficult. I often think I never will buy a home, and if I ever do, it won't be until I'm well into my 40s or 50s. Older millennial. 1983. My mom gave me a little money to make a down payment on a 430 square featuring condo in SoCal for $270,000 with PMI. Her thinking was the market would only go up. Of course 2008 happened. The bottom fell out of the market and I got laid off. Somehow I managed to hold on, and after 10 years, finally had enough equity to make a little off the place. My wife and I used it to buy a much more comfortable place in the PNW 5 years ago. There were some tough times for sure. But I'm lucky compared to a lot of people. We refinanced in 2020 for a super low rate. I don't know how anyone can afford a mortgage with today's rates. We kinda lucked into ours. We applied for a rural development loan through the USDA and qualified for $179,900 with a really good interest rate. We had to wait approximately 6 months for it to process and couldn't find the right house in our budget. Then we stumbled on a house that checked all the boxes and was owned by an old lady who just wanted it off her hands. Listed at $180,000 for a 4-bed, 2.5 bath on a quarter acre. Last I checked, it was estimated to be worth $430,000. I just bought a home. I needed $50,000 down payment to do it. I won't go into details about how I got that $50,000. But I can damn sure guarantee the average millennial, Gen Z, doesn't have $50,000 to drop. We've been in our house about 5.5 years. An FHA loan and 2 down payment assistance programs through the city got us into it for almost nothing out of pocket. I don't recall exact numbers now. But we had to put down earnest money, pay inspection, and like $250 at closing. It was under $1,000 all told. The problem was finding a house we could afford. We got lucky there, because my best friend has a friend who at the time was working for the city. After $1 million worth of grants to a developer, all he had to do was sell one home to a low-income family. My best friend had made sure all his contacts knew what we were trying to do. So his friend referred us. And they sold us the house for what we could afford. It was dumb luck. In other words, the house is still in the ghetto. But all the other houses we could afford weren't just in the ghetto but falling down. For real. One house we looked at was basically missing the floor in one room. So it's a win.